Welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. And there is actually a lot going on in the world, and I'm going to spend this episode kind of catching you up on some highlights of important things that affect not only the military community, but the U.S. and the world at large. So buckle up for that. Some of these are updates on things I have covered before, like Afghanistan, Taiwan, burn pits, those sorts of things. But there are new details that I felt like it was worth sharing with you. That said, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. All right, so let's, get started. So, update, Nancy Pelosi is currently visiting Taiwan. She is the first Speaker of the House to do so since Newt Gingrich visited in 1997. Of course, the Chinese are being cranky. She's made some public statements, and the Chinese have encircled the island of Taiwan in an exercise. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But honestly, I feel like Nancy Pelosi did the right thing. It's important for Taiwan to know that we support them, and it's important for China to know that we're serious about them staying out of Taiwan. It's good for us, it's good for them, it's good for the whole world. So it's kind of a stand I feel like we needed to take. So I back Nancy Pelosi on this one, or at least her trip there. Yeah. Anyway, the next one is again something that made the news that was really rather significant. The United States military eliminated Yaman al-Zawahiri. Again, I may not be pronouncing that. An, Anaman al-Zawahiri. Anyway, al-Zawahiri. He was the leader of al-Qaeda. He had been the second in command under Osama bin Laden. He took lead or took control of al-Qaeda when Osama bin Laden was killed by the United States. He has been in hiding from the United States since then. He has been on our most wanted terrorist, we need to kick their butt list for a while. Okay, that's not the official name, but y'all know what I mean. Anyway, we have been trying to find him for a while, but he has been pretty good about, staying hidden until all of a sudden he felt super comfortable and he popped up in a very public place with a very predictable routine with his whole family. Yeah, shock of shocks. He was in Kabul, Afghanistan, living in the home of the Minister of the Interior, a member of the Taliban government that are supposed to have been working with us to keep Al Qaeda out. Yeah. So on the surface, this sounds great because honestly, taking out this guy is a good thing. I mean, he's a really big terrorist. He had a significant role to play in 9/11, which is hands down the largest terrorist action against United States civilians on U.S. soil in over 100 years. So I have no issues with this guy being taken out while sipping whatever on his balcony at 6 a.m. I'm game. And that shows the precision of U.S. military and U.S. intelligence that we could take him out all by himself at his home without hurting anyone else. Personally, that is a win for the military and the US intelligence system. But the fact that he was in Kabul, me thinking we have a problem. So my issue, this is what my issue is. Um, the whole reason why we pulled out of Afghanistan was because supposedly Al Qaeda was beaten and would never come back, and the Taliban promised that they would never let them back, and the Taliban was going to behave, and they weren't going to try to take over Afghanistan, and they were the Afghan military wasn't going to fold and run, and the Afghan duly elected democratic government wasn't going to be kicked out of office summarily, and martial law wasn't going to be instituted. And why do I have an issue with this? Oh, because all those things have happened. Oh, and not only did all those things happen, but when Afghanistan fell last summer, not we, like as in me, but we, as in the United States State Department, decided it would be brilliant to hand over to the Taliban a list of everyone who had helped the United States that was still in the country, their names, their phone numbers, their families, their addresses, and the U.S. citizens and the family members of U.S. citizens that we were concerned about because they were going to help us get those people out. But they haven't. And now Al Qaeda is there. Do you think those people are safe? I don't think those people are very safe. But if the Taliban is willing to let the leader of Al Qaeda live in one of their homes in Kabul with his whole family, I have a sneaking suspicion that the lives of every single U.S. citizen and their family members in Afghanistan are probably at risk. So, yes, taking this guy out, total win. However, the fact that he was even able to be there, the fact that we no longer have boots on the ground, the fact that we still have citizens trapped there, not so much a win. That's a problem. So Afghanistan still manages to be a problem mark. Now, the fact that we can totally kick someone's trash at 6 o'clock in the morning and call their number and take them out without harming any other person shows that the American military's got skills. We've got some serious skills. By the way, that was my husband sneezing in the background. Sorry about that. So that is just another one of those things that has been going down. And I just have to go back to the fact that al-Zawahiri was with his whole family there. He had felt so comfortable, he had established a routine. So we were able to do this. He was staying with a member of the Taliban government. I just it's really hard to swallow. So super excited. Al-Zawahiri is gone. We've got another one that bites the dust of the individuals who perpetrated 9/11, which is to me always a win. But the circumstances in which it happened and why he felt so comfortable to the point where we could take him out in such a remote and easy fashion is unsettling. I'm glad that no bystanders were hurt. I'm always glad when no bystanders are hurt. I'm always glad when women and children are kept out of it. I just worry about the ramifications and significance of where he was and what he was doing and who he was with. So, it's a two-edged sword. It really is. And Afghanistan is one of those things that just I feel like has gone to the back burner and people just aren't talking about it or worried about it as much anymore, but it's still an issue. If Al Qaeda thinks that they are safe, and they obviously don't like us very much. I mean, we did kind of make getting rid of them one of our number one priorities for like 20 years. And we've killed their top two leaders. I just worry because we have other issues here in the United States. Border security is not what it should be. That's a whole nother bag of worms. But if we don't have border security and we have organizations like Al Qaeda rebuilding and rearming, and they've already hit us once, the implications are not happy. So that's another one of those situations that I'm keeping an eye on, like always. And like I said, I'm trying to keep an eye on this stuff for you. The next one, going back to one of the topics I have covered several times, it is burn pits. Burn pit legislation, like I have said, has been in and out of the Congress year after year after year. nobody opposes it officially, and yet somehow it never happens. Last year, we had a bipartisan, bicameral bill that just died in committee. I have no earthly idea why. Finally, this year, President Biden brought it up in the State of the Union, and it seemed like maybe this would be the year we would get the legislation. Everyone was on board, everyone signed off, 100% bipartisan agreement. Everything was hunky dory. It was passing, no problem. Everyone was voting for it. And at the very final hour, the Democrats, or at least one or two Democrats, decided to change the funding of the bill. So let me break this down for people who don't understand legal argy-bargy. And honestly, I had to do quite a bit of research to make sure I had my head wrapped around this. So the way that it was originally funded was with discretionary funds. So that means that the funding for this bill would, if there was a budget issue and the federal government had to be shut down or whatever, then these benefits and assistances and programs would be paused. I can understand why the Democrats would want to change it from discretionary to non discretionary, which means that it would then not be paused if there was a federal shutdown, which, considering the fact that Congress has been unable to do a freaking budget for years now and they just can't ever agree on budgeting. I can see why that would be a thing. Yeah. The issue is the way they did it. Instead of changing it from discretionary to non-discretionary or vice. Yeah. Anyway, one of the in other words, instead of just changing it, they added. So all of a sudden, they doubled the spending of the bill, and half of the bill was allocated one way, and now all of a sudden there was an equal amount on the other side, not allotted for anything. It was just sitting there, extra money floating in the air. And understandably so, there were a couple individuals, Republicans, who were like, hey, wait, why did you do that? That doesn't make sense. Like, I could see if you wanted to change how it was being funded, although we all agreed on this and why you changed it last minute without telling us was not cool. But yeah, doubling the cost of the bill doesn't make sense. And so again, just because this is me and I try to make this stuff more accessible, there's one point where in the West Wing, again, I go back to the West Wing just because a lot of what we talk about is politics. I don't know, there's a lot of politics in our life today. And in the West Wing, they talk about something called a Christmas tree bill. Basically, everybody wants to look good because this is the kind of bill that makes everyone look good. So everybody wants their name on it. Everyone wants their stamp. They want to be able to say they were a part of it. And so everybody's trying to put their input in so they all look good. And then at the very end, somebody tries to put the star at the top of the tree and it knocks it over. And that's what happened. This became a Christmas tree bill. Everyone was trying to do this and do that, so they all looked good because everyone wants to look good, because everyone in a voting cycle close to elections wants to look good. Especially they want to look like they're taking care of the veterans. And I just wish they actually cared more about taking care of the veterans than looking good for taking care of the veterans. Because in the long run, that would mean more. And the fact that they have over and over and over again botched this job of finishing this piece of legislation and actually getting it into law year after year is just gotten disappointing. So that's what happened again. So it's not that this is dead. It's not that it's not going to happen. It may not happen again this year. We may have to wait till next year. Yay. It may still happen this year, but basically what's going to happen is they got to go back and they've got to rehash the funding issue, which is really obnoxious because they had it all figured out. I mean, again, I can kind of see where the Democrats were coming in what they did, but how they did it was not the best. And the fact that they didn't give the Republicans a heads up that they were doing it and explain why and give them a chance to, renegotiate that before they just dropped it in their lap and then said, hey, vote on this, and make them look bad for being confused that it got changed last minute. Anyway, personally, I think it's a whole bunch of politics and it's really just getting annoying. At this point, at some point, people just need to stop playing games and actually do their job, which is take care of American citizens, which is take care of the veterans who have served this country. And also, the one thing that I really get annoyed about this bill and every single other bill, not once has any solid plan been put forth to actually get rid of the burn pits. They're willing to dole out money for medical care for all of these veterans for time in memoriam until the end of the freaking world, but they won't end the thing that's causing it. It's like if we were still using Agent Orange now, today, even though we knew all the way back in Vietnam it was a bad idea. We stopped using Agent Orange. Can we come up with another plan for waste disposal? I mean, really, people, especially individuals who are all like, we need to save the planet, green energy, stop polluting. What are burn pits? It's polluting. It's pollution. If you really, really care about the planet that much, I know a great way to reduce greenhouse emissions. Let's get rid of burn pits. And you know what? Everyone would support you, including the military. You'd get so many people on your side. But again, logic eludes people. No one has thought of it. Or at least, correction, nobody has done anything about it, which is almost the same thing sometimes. So, yes, I know that was slightly ranty, but at this point, I'm almost wondering how many, like, if anyone in DC, and anyone on Capitol Hill has even realized that maybe, let's start by getting rid of burn pits. Let's get rid of burn pits, and that way no one else will have these health problems. Let's just treat the cause, and then since they can't manage to figure out how to freaking take care of the symptoms, let's deal with the cause. Maybe dealing with the cause? I don't know. But I mean, if they can't handle the symptoms, maybe they can't handle the cause either. So, trying not to be cynical, trying not to be pessimistic, but I mean, if you can't even pass a bipartisan bicameral bill and it dies in committee, I'm not really sure what to do. So at this point, if you're a veteran and you're suffering from burn pit exposure, move to Texas. They're the only ones who have your back. Because Texas is the only state that has passed a law that will actually give health care and support to veterans who are victims of, well, I say victims, but really it is true, of burn pits. So Texas is your new best friend. That's where you need to go, especially if you were exposed to burn pits and have medical complications due to them. Yeah, that is super sad to say. Another follow-up, and I'm not going to get too in detail with this because I'm just going to we're wrapping up. We're near the end of today's episode anyway. But um mentioned how the military, the Army specifically, was having recruiting issues, how the Army decided to drop the high school thing for a while in the GED. That got some backlash, so they threw it back on. They've come up with a new game plan, and I really love it. I'm going to only hit it briefly, but I think it's a much better idea. And this is education/fitness camps. Those are not the terms my husband used when describing them. I'm being a little bit more politically correct with my statements. I think his statement was funnier, but we're just going to skip over that. But anyway, if you are unable to meet the physical fitness requirements to go to basic training, you can go to a pre-basic training that is all physical fitness stuff that will then help you get ready. And as soon as you are able to pass the requirements to go into basic training, you're shipped off to basic training, which I honestly think is a great idea. And the same thing goes for education. If you are unable to meet the GED requirement, then there is an education camp for you to go to help study and fill in whatever educational gaps you have to get your GED or meet those requirements educationally so that you, or no, wait, it wasn't GED, it was ASVAB. Sorry, it was the ASVAB, which they've also changed the name on me. My husband pointed out after my last episode, it's not the ASVAB anymore. Anyway, the military entrance exam, if you score too low to get in, then they go to the special education camp where they kind of fill in your educational gaps and you get to retake it again until you're able to go to basic. I personally think that's a great idea. This is why, and this is my opinion, and I will say that this is my opinion, but my opinion on this is that this shows who really wants it. This shows if they have the work ethic and the dedication to meet those basic requirements. Instead of just giving a free pass and saying, we hope you will, follow through. This is show us that you mean it, and then we will ship you out. And I feel like that is a great way for them to earn it, to have that dignity, to know that I didn't need an exception. I earned this. And give them that sense of dignity and pride that comes from earning it and deserving to be there. And I personally, again, we'll have to wait and see if this is actually the case. But I personally feel like these individuals who genuinely go through and genuinely do this and get to basic training are probably going to be more successful and more likely to finish basic training than if they had just been given a free pass. So again, my 2 cents, my opinion on that. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So that is kind of what's going on in the world today. Like I said, there is a ton. I really had to kind of narrow down because I just kept finding things I wanted to share. I found a lot of stuff I really wanted to share, but again, I didn't want this to be an hour-long thing. So I hope it was informative. I just wanted to update you on some things going on. And with that, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.